Dear citizens of Israel, my beloved brothers and sisters, we are living through historic days, days that will be recorded in the annals of Israel. In Operation Lion's Roar, our roar is growing stronger and stronger. We are disrupting the regime of terror in Iran. We are striking and weakening its agents, Hezbollah in Lebanon. With unprecedented cooperation between Israel and the United States, we have achieved enormous accomplishments that are changing the balance of power in the Middle East and even beyond. These accomplishments consolidate Israel's position as a stronger power than ever before. And this dramatic shift in our strength compared to the strength of our enemies is the key to ensuring our existence. Threats arise and threats disappear. But when we become a regional power, and in certain fields a global power, we have the ability to keep dangers away from us and secure our future. In 1993, I published an article in one of the newspapers and wrote in it, "The greatest danger to the existence of Israel is not in the Arab countries, it is in Iran." Since then, for more than 30 years, the murderous regime of the Ayatollahs has indeed acted to harm the United States and the West. But above all, it worked to advance its plan to destroy Israel. He did this on 3 levels. First, he built an axis of evil with terrorist armies like Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Assad regime, and others. The second level was working to establish an arsenal of tens of thousands of lethal ballistic missiles, and the third level was acting to develop atomic bombs. With the declared goal of driving us far away, he won't be able to do that. As the Prime Minister of Israel, I led many open and covert operations that delayed Iran and reduced its capabilities. But at the same time, we built our own military, technological, and diplomatic capabilities to strike Iran with force and keep threats away from us. All these efforts culminated in the War of Renaissance, with the people like dogs, and now, with the roar of the lion, in the War of Renaissance, we struck the axis of evil hard. It is still there, but with greatly reduced capabilities. We are committed to completing the task, to bringing security to all the citizens of Israel, and especially for the residents of the North, just as we are doing and will continue to do for the residents of the South. Hezbollah feels the weight of our strong arm and will feel it even more intensely. He will pay dearly for his aggression in the operation against the people of Kalbi. We have paved the way to comprehensively target Iran's missile arsenal and the production lines of other missiles. We did the same regarding their nuclear project, including targeting some of the main Iranian scientists, those who led the development of atomic bombs intended to destroy us. They no longer exist, and in fact we got a few more now. After the operation with Kalbi, President Trump and I warned the dictator Khamenei. We told him, if you try to re-establish your death factories, we will strike you with a force you have never known. Not only did he not listen to us, but he also started an accelerated effort to restore the nuclear and missile program. And this time to hide them very deep, deep underground, under high mountains. If we hadn't taken action immediately, in a few months, Iran's death industry would be completely immune to any attack. That's why we launched a campaign together, the United States and Israel, to continue what we did in Natanz. To prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, to prevent Iran from developing ballistic missiles that would threaten Israel, the United States, and the entire world. That is our goal. In a short time, we eliminated the operational need, and also many high-ranking officials of the terrorist regime. We eliminated the old dictator and the new dictator. Mostaba, the puppet of the Revolutionary Guard, cannot show his face in public. We are destroying the nuclear infrastructures, the missile system and launchers, the headquarters of repression, the regime's centers of power, and many other targets. And at the same time, we are working to move forward. Another goal is to create the conditions for the Iranian people to overthrow the tyrannical and cruel regime that has oppressed them for almost half a century. We are delivering devastating blows against the Revolutionary Guard and the Basiji, both in the streets and at checkpoints, and we're not done yet. I say to the Iranian people, the moment when you will be able to follow a new path of freedom is approaching. We are by your side, we are helping you, but in the end, all of this depends entirely on you. It's in your hands. At this very moment, we can say with absolute certainty, it's no longer the same Iran, and it's certainly not the same Middle East anymore, and it's not even the same Israel. We don't wait, we take the initiative, we attack, and we do it with unprecedented force. We have created an unparalleled alliance with the United States, an alliance with our great friend, my personal friend, President Trump. We talk almost every day, we speak openly, we focus, we exchange ideas, advice, and we make decisions together. President Trump told me something recently that I want to share with you. The relationship between us is 100 times stronger than any relationship that has ever existed between an American president and an Israeli prime minister. We don't think only about our countries, only about this generation. We also think about the next generations, about the future of humanity. These days, my colleagues and I are forming new alliances with countries in the region, alliances that, until a few weeks ago, seemed imaginary. And we are doing all of this. We are doing this thanks to the immense strength we have built, thanks to the extraordinary courage of our commanders and soldiers, and thanks to your resilience, citizens of Israel. I know that you strictly follow the instructions of the Home Front Command. You repeatedly go into protected shelters. I know this isn't easy. I know it's also difficult now in the north. By following the guidelines, you save lives and give support and encouragement to me, to the government of Israel, to the defense forces, and to the security forces, so that we can achieve the goals of the campaign, as President Trump once told me. Only in Israel are rescue flights the other way around. All over the world, people want to flee from combat zones, but here in Israel, everyone wants to come back. Where does this spirit come from? He always asks me, and I answer him. This is the secret of our success. This is the resilience of our people. This is the strength of our faith, the faith in the eternity of Israel. Questions?
Hello, sir. Did you declare Operation Canaan as a victory? And half a year later, we're already in another round. In your assessment, after you take office, won't there be another round in the near future? And sir, what would be considered a victory for you? Would the implementation of the regime be the definition of victory?
First of all, defining the objectives. Clearly, we are here to cause serious damage to the nuclear and also ballistic programs, and mainly to prevent the Iranians from placing them in underground locations where we can't reach them. We are going to achieve these objectives. I also decided to add one more objective, which is to create the necessary conditions for the Iranian people to be able to free themselves from this terrible regime of tyranny. Creating the conditions does not guarantee that this will be accomplished. And I told them now, in the words I just said a moment ago, I said ultimately it depends on you. You can lead someone to water, but you can't make them drink. We are going to create the ideal conditions to carry this out, including airstrikes, like we did yesterday, and as we have been doing these past days, to try to give them the necessary space so they can go out into the streets. But those are our objectives. At the same time, we are crushing this regime completely. There's no other way to describe it. Now, in the case of Avi, our goal was to keep her away from coming very close to developing nuclear weapons and also from building infrastructure to create tens of thousands of missiles. That's what we did. They could, of course, keep doing it. But we hope that Kiani, who is no longer with us, who heard the threats that both Trump and I made as president, didn't listen. Whatever it was, we enforced it strictly, proving that we were very serious. We will not allow the development of existential threats against the state of Israel and very serious threats against the US and the West. And that's what we're working on.
Prime Minister, yes, please, good luck with the campaign with God's help. First of all, he said, stand up, Saad Bermin can't show his face in public, and I ask what will happen to him and to Naim Qassem, who collaborated with him. And what about the nuclear meters, which we haven't heard enough about lately? What will happen to the enriched uranium that Iran has already managed to stockpile?
I wouldn't take out a life insurance policy here for any of the leaders of the terrorist organizations, nor for their terror patron. And I don't intend to give an exact prediction here of what we're planning and what we'll do about the nuclear program. We hit the nuclear infrastructure and also eliminated another senior scientist, a very important one. You asked what will happen to them. I missed the end of the question due to the earpiece. What was it?
I asked what will happen to Mochad Barhamenei and also to Naim Qassem, who works with him.
Oh yes, I've already given my answer about that, but it seems to me that you're also asking what will happen in the continuation of the campaign. I think there will be many surprises. Also, I am obliged in this press conference to maintain operational secrecy. I can't share all our plans with you. In absolutely everything we are implementing, now I can say for sure that we are far ahead of what we expected, and we intend to achieve all our main goals with the help of Hashem. Hello to all of you. You said after the network earlier.
It is worth noting that the State of Israel will not allow Hezbollah to strengthen its power, failing to do so with the inhabitants of the north. As you yourself mentioned in other interviews, we managed to set Hezbollah back by at least 20 years. Did you really need to convey this message to the public, especially to the residents of the north? Less slogans and more realistic vision. In the end, they live this reality, and maybe they're more mature than the Israeli public. And the second question, if you allow me, do you agree with President Trump's statement that President Herzog, as he said, is a disgrace? Do you support your government's ministers calling for sanctions against the president? Thank you.
Yes, you got a bonus, because I think we usually only allow one question if I'm not mistaken, but I'll answer both of your questions. First of all, my heart is with the residents of the north. I heard the farmer Weinstein, 4 generations in Metula, and you can see the tremendous effort, the great anguish. And we will not abandon him, we will not abandon Metula, we will not abandon the residents of the north. We will act with great wisdom and great strength to eliminate the threat to Metula. Now I want to tell you something. In the previous campaign, I said that we removed a huge threat, not only from the residents of the north, but from the entire state of Israel. I remind all of you, those who say that Hezbollah is still firing. At that time, we talked about 150,000 rockets and missiles. We talked about the destruction of skyscrapers in Tel Aviv, islands of ruins in the Gostan region and in other parts of the east. We talked about 15 to 20,000 dead. None of that came true because we dealt them a tremendous blow. But that doesn't mean they don't still have some residual firepower left. They still have some residual firepower. We'll deal with that too, just like we'll deal with what we'll do in Lebanon. I promise you that we are having very serious discussions, not just discussions for the sake of talking, but discussions to take action. And again, we can't. I intend to reveal this, but you need to understand one thing. Threats come and threats arise, but we are strengthening our power so much compared to what was here before. We were under nuclear threat from Iran. We were under threat from tens of thousands of ballistic missiles. Who knows how many they would have taken and how many were better? How much slavery was there in man? We were under threat from the terrorist organization Hezbollah, the most frightening threat in the world, because they had destructive weapons against us. You can't compare today's Iran to what it was before, nor is today's Hezbollah the same as it was. And I tell you that tomorrow they will be even weaker, both Iran and Hezbollah. And with God's help, we will bring change, an even deeper change. We are changing, as I promised, the Middle East, both in front of enemies and friends. Israel is stronger than ever. Everyone understands this. The whole world understands this. Our people, our neighbors understand this, both friends and enemies. He also asked me about the president of his country. I do not intend to comment on the words of an American president or any other. And I wonder, didn't you ask this question when President Biden said he asked to intervene in the issue of judicial reform? Presidents in the United States have the right to say what they think. That's his opinion, I know that. Many who talk to President Trump hear this from him because he sees it as a witch hunt. He is right that there is a political persecution, a process that shouldn't even exist and certainly should have been closed after they revealed those terrible things about us. The brutal intimidation of witnesses, crimes, falsification of records, wiretapping, threats to destroy families, all this terrible persecution. Use of spyware against thousands of Israeli citizens, 13,000, thank you. And a significant part of this was directed at my personal circle. Where has anything like this ever been heard of? In a free country, this is not right. You know this is a violation of the law and it should have ended. And President Trump has the right to say what he thinks. I'm not responsible for the words he chooses. And you may wonder if he speaks from the heart. Yes, he speaks from the heart. No. Thank you.
Israel is acting to arm opponents of the regime in Iran, and we are also preparing for a scenario in which the regime in Iran does not fall, because you yourself admit that this is not certain. And just to continue Aaron's earlier question, did you ask President Trump to raise the issue of pardon also during the days of war?
I didn't ask him, not before, not now, no, I didn't ask him. Everyone present who hears him can testify that he talks about it spontaneously. What was the first question you asked?
Israel is arming opponents of the regime, and we are preparing for a scenario in which the regime in Iran resists. Consequences in the face of something like this, because you yourself said that you can be sure that military action will lead to the fall of the regime.
I'm not going to go into detail about all the specific actions we're taking at this very moment as we speak. What I can say is that we are creating the fundamental, ideal, and highly favorable conditions for the definitive overthrow of the current regime. But I repeat once again, I do not deny this in any way. And I want to emphasize, I cannot say with absolute certainty that the Iranian people will be able to overthrow the regime on their own. The regime is ultimately overthrown by internal forces and pressures that inevitably come from within. In the end, that's exactly what ends up happening. But we can certainly offer help, and we are already actively and consistently helping. We told them clearly that the necessary help and international support are already on the way. Right now, tell me what you think about all this. Now they are also joining together against him with us, and also acting against him in open, transparent ways, and other various ways that will still be properly clarified and detailed in the very near future, and will be revealed to everyone. Anyway, I can tell you that with God's help, Israel is on a much stronger path, with much more power than it has ever had before. And in the end, you have to understand that. I think everyone says, wait a moment, we will achieve rest and tranquility. We will reach the times of the Messiah, so I'll tell you, we may reach the times of the Messiah, but that's not going to happen next Thursday. In the life of nations, you always come across new threats or old threats that resurface. And the only way to guarantee your existence, your future, your prosperity, and the alliances that are made with you, it's by being very strong, and there's no doubt, from battle to battle. Since the War of Independence, passing through the people like a lion, and now to the roar of the lions, Israel comes out stronger than it has ever been. On October 7th, we were on the edge of the abyss. Everyone thought it was our end. And today we are a power, at least a regional one. And the whole world admires the bravery of our soldiers, the resilience of our citizens, our technological capabilities, our pilots, ground crews, rescue teams, and civil society. You can see all of this coming together into an extraordinary force. And I tell you that what we have here are two things. It's the unique strength and faith of the people of Israel, of the state of Israel, which manifest and transform our future. And that's why, if we start thinking in these terms, we can guarantee our future. Because of this extraordinary strength, both spiritual and physical, this combination guarantees our future. And I think that promises us very, very good days ahead.
Good evening, Prime Minister. First question about Lebanon. Is it possible to understand if you are considering, in the discussions, permanently taking territory from the state of Lebanon because of Hezbollah's violations? And another question about what President Herzog said here. You described your close relationship with Trump, that you speak openly with each other. So I would like to ask if you said anything to him about the harsh things he says about President Herzog, that he is a disgrace, pathetic, and a charlatan. Maybe you commented on the way he talks about the President of the State of Israel.
About Lebanon, I told the Lebanese government a few days ago, you are simply playing with fire. If you keep allowing Hezbollah to act in contradiction to the commitment to disarm them, you are compromising yourselves. So take your destiny into your own hands. It's about time you do this now. If you don't do it, it's clear to you that we will. How do we do this? How do we do this on the ground, with other things? I don't intend to go into details here, but I can assure you that, as I mentioned before, we are waiting for Hezbollah to pay an extremely high price. And it would be better for the Lebanese government to move forward decisively with us and take part in this process. If they don't do that, we will have no choice but to do it our way. About my conversations with President Trump, I don't speak with him. I usually talk.
Presidentes, incluindo o presidente Herzog.
I have a lot of respect for the president, but I think this trial needs to end. He shouldn't be here, not in wartime. In wartime, there's nothing to discuss. This trial should have ended a long time ago. It simply shouldn't have happened. It's a persecution trial. Everyone sees it. They see the president's collapse. They see a trial where it's clear that for 3 years the judges have been saying, there's no bribery here, so what's left? I received for my young son, who at the time was little, a gift for my son. That's why they're investigating me, and I received cigars from a friend. That's why they're making this trial as if it were a terrible treason trial and everything else. But all of this is falling apart, and everyone sees it, and they see ambassadors, they see ministers, they sit in there and say, we don't believe what we're seeing. This doesn't show us equality before the law. This shows us inequality before the law, because they wouldn't do this to ordinary citizens. They wouldn't want to bring down a government, a right-wing government, under my leadership. So is that a possible answer? President Herzog is free to make his decision. He shouldn't be subject to pressure. He simply needs to do what's right. I'm talking about internal pressure, not less than external pressure. He simply needs to do what's right. And what's right to do today is to stop and end this absurd circus. Give the state of Israel the time and give me the time to do what is necessary, both to defeat our enemies and to create enormous opportunities for peace, prosperity, and alliances in our region. Great things lie ahead of us, and I am working on them, right at this very moment. I wish I could be fully available just for that. At least that's what I try to do every moment I'm awake. And there aren't many of those.
Yes. Mr. Prime Minister, you've repeatedly stated there's no guarantee the Iranian regime will fall. Still, would you consider that a failure of the campaign? Because when you talk about Lebanon and also about Iran, what are you saying? Actually, you say that we need to be prepared and ready for the possibility of more rounds. We saw that as well from what happened since then with Kalbi. How do you expect the public to behave so far? And are you also calling on parties to join you in the government, for example, Benny Gantz or others?
First of all, we draw enormous strength from the public. The majority of the public, I must say, the majority of the public understands what we are up against. The majority of the public has patience. Not just the majority, the public has patience and determination. They also understand the discomfort, really, the difficulty we face from time to time of having to go down to the shelters or to protected areas. They understand that almost 40 years ago, a regime emerged here, a hostile one that came to eliminate us. And we are preventing that. We are preventing that with a firm hand, in an impressive way. In fact, the whole world is amazed by our ability, by what we are doing. And that is, of course, the question we need to ask ourselves all the time. Why are we doing this? We do this because we truly have the strength of life, that strength of the people of Israel, to overcome with our spirit and determination, to understand that we will no longer be destroyed or exiled. It is the opportunity that the Holy One gave us to return to the land, renew our independence, and rebuild the army. And to repel enemies if we need to repel them time after time, that's what we will do. And many times these enemies change and come to make peace with us. Now we have unimaginable peaceful relations with former enemies. And you know what? That's getting stronger and stronger, they say. I talked to dozens of leaders during the war. I'm not just busy leading the war, I'm also busy leading the diplomatic front, which for the most part is like an iceberg under the water. You don't see it, but they talk to me and are full of admiration for our strength, and that's why they want to be close to us. They want relationships they've never had with us until now, so that's what's happening. You can't say that things are going to end. We live in this wild space of the Middle East, where there are countries that aspire to progress, but there are also many countries that want to take us back to the Middle Ages. We can't just say, well, we wish it was so. As Switzerland knows one thing, even in Switzerland this is happening now. That is, this extremism, this barbarism of radical Islamism, both Shia and Sunni, radical Shia Islamism and radical Sunni Islamism today threaten the entire world. We are in the heart of the Middle East, and you can't just say this will end. Stop. Everything is resolved, right? This requires more and more strikes, but these strikes tremendously weaken our enemies. They may not disappear, they don't disappear all at once, but how can you compare? I ask the press, who perhaps should question themselves from time to time, all the time, you say, wow, what happened? What a letdown. Look at how many successes we have. Look at the huge achievements we have in this war. That dictator who for 47 years called for our destruction was eliminated. It's as if a Hitler had re-emerged and now has been eliminated by us, and all their top officials are also being eliminated. And their entire missile system has also been eliminated, and their nuclear program and the nuclear scientists who plot our destruction have also been eliminated. There are enormous achievements, and the world sees our army, the world sees our people, and the people also see our government. They see our ability to face all of this and achieve these accomplishments. So I would look at our great achievements, at our challenges, and at the difficulties that still remain, and I do not ignore them. I also intend to help the communities in the north with the necessary support. Not to spare even a single shekel here, and not just a shekel, all the national effort. We are doing this and we will continue to do this. But what is important is to understand, to believe in our strength, to believe in our achievements, to believe in our potential, to believe in our spirit, to believe in our power. That is what I can tell you. We are in the midst of a war, and we are advancing toward our objectives.
Hello, Prime Minister. You stated that the conscription law initiates a process for the recruitment of the ultra-Orthodox. If that's the case, why give it up precisely at a time of war, or is the interest only political? And also regarding Minister Edith Silman's request for sanctions, do you support her call? And if not, why haven't you resigned over it?
Yes, regarding your first question, please, yes. Go back then so I can answer you, please, yes.
He stated that the mandatory recruitment law initiates the mass enlistment of Orthodox Jews. If that's the case, why do they abandon it in times of war, or is the interest only political?
No, actually, we haven't given up anything. What we did was temporarily set aside all our legislative projects. And we said now we need to focus exclusively on one thing, security. We need to approve a defense budget with tens of billions for the defense budget. Otherwise, we won't have the armaments and other things necessary to advance our military plans. And the problem was that different factions naturally, as they usually do in times, generally say, well, I'll support the budget, I won't support the budget unless I get this law. The ultra-Orthodox said the draft law the way they wanted, all right, and others said, we won't support the budget unless we get such and such reforms. And I addressed the people, first of all, the Minister of Finance. And I said to him, let's approach all the factions together and say, put aside the conditions and demands. Now let's approve everything and then move forward with the legislation. Let's approve the budget, a responsible budget, a security budget, a necessary budget in times of war. They did exactly that, and I'm proud. They acted with great responsibility. Once the budget is approved, we will go back to legislating. I hope we can finish soon, and I hope we can complete this government's term. And I also hope we can pass the conscription law, which I consider a very responsible law, exactly as we want to approve it. A law that will lead to the conscription of 23,000 ultra-Orthodox in 3.5 years, something unprecedented. It's excellent, and there are many other important points in it.
Hello, sir. You said you believe the government will complete its term in about 10 days. There will be a hearing in the Supreme Court about the petition demanding the dismissal of Minister Ben-Gvir. The decision will really be as the petitioners demand. Are you actually going to obey it, or would you rather call early elections? And what do you think is the purpose of the visit from Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, who is arriving here next week? In your opinion, is this related to a deadline that, according to the American press, President Trump has set, intending to set for the war and trying to bring it to an end?
We are in a fight for our existence and for our future. I don't believe there are forces in the state of Israel that would now create a confrontation between authorities, a deep crisis. We are not lacking Iran, we are not lacking Hezbollah, we are not lacking, at the moment, challenges that we can face and are managing to overcome. So now we need to get into this. I don't believe anyone will put us in such a situation. This goes beyond madness, this goes beyond insanity, this is a total loss of control. This is not the time to do this, and in my opinion, there is never a right time to do this. Now, about the question I asked during Steve Witkoff's visit, I hope I will always be happy to see him. Stop thinking in terms of impositions. I tell you that the relationship between me and President Trump and the relationship we have built between Israel and the United States, just like the cooperation between the armies, which Pete Ragsas described as the best armies in the world and the best air forces in the world. This cooperation is enormous, and it doesn't work through impositions. It works in completely different ways, through dialogue, sharing ideas, consultation, and joint work. Start thinking this way. This applies at all levels, but above all, between me and the President, and also between our teams. I want to tell you one more thing. You really, the public, now I'm talking about the public, I apologize to the journalists for speaking directly to the public because I have some remarks that I would say to you at other times. But now I'm sparing myself from that, and you as well. But I want to say to the public, you give tremendous support. You simply reveal the spirit of the old man. You reveal the secret of why these people have survived through all these generations and have overcome difficulties that no other people have managed to overcome. You are discovering because the eternity of Israel is not a slogan but a fact. And I want to thank you, and I also want to thank my wife Sarah, my family Sarah, who is the support of my life and helps me, just as many of you help. You come to me and say, be strong, keep leading us, don't give up. I don't give up, I am strong, I am strong. Thanks to you, thanks to our common heritage, and thanks to my wife and my children, who give me immense strength at a huge personal cost. I love all of you. Thank you very much.